Okay. Have you reviewed in the chapter about structure, process, and outcome measures, Annie, Tia?
I read a little bit about it. I just kind of skimmed through it just a few minutes ago before starting.
I think the book lacks quite a bit explaining it well, and typically students have a hard time understanding this until we talk about it. And then once we talk about it, it seems to click with them. So I think it's important enough, and I want you all to score good on it, which I'm sure you do too. So I thought it would be good if we met and went over the differences in structure, process, and outcome measures. And I'm going to start by giving a completely non-healthcare example, and then we'll relate it back to the scenario for your assignment. That sound good?
Okay.
What did you use in your discussion board as your process, that first discussion board? Was it the first one or second one, Chelsea, where they describe the process?
I think that's the first one.
The first one was the about customer service and what companies.
And then the other one was about something that you measure at home.
Mm-hmm.
Measure, assess, and improve. What was your example?
Mine was time management.
Time management. That's an excellent one. There's so many. There's time management. There's your finances. There's your weight. Am I eating right? Or measure your weight. If you don't weigh what you want, what can you do to fix that? You exercise and diet. You reassess. You measure. You improve. But that constant circle, which is what this course is all about. One process I like to use that is so easy that everybody is familiar with, and that this clicked with me when I first started understanding quality better, when I guess he at the time was about 11-year-old son was loading the dishes in the dishwasher. Simple. We all do it every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was unloading them. He would take a plate from the dishwasher, walk it all the way over to the cabinet, put it away, and we'd come back and he would get another plate and do the same thing. Like, Alec, if you'll stack up all the plates, you can take them to the cabinet one time. So look how much time that saved him. Then if you relate that back to doing the dishes, what's the ultimate outcome of washing the dishes?
Getting them clean.
Right, clean dishes. But that's your outcome measure. That is the end-all be-all goal of the dishwasher process. Agree?
Mm-hmm.
So what things do you have to have in place to get to those clean dishes? So it all builds. You see that structure, process, and outcome. So outcome is clean plates, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to have some other things in place to get here, right?
Right.
So what's one thing you've got to have?
If you're going to use a dishwasher, you got to make sure your dishwasher is already empty.
Right. You've got to actually have the dishwasher. You've got to have whatever dishwashing detergent, soap you put in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. It has to be empty. What's something else?
As far as structure,
Yes.
you have to load the dishwasher.
Right. So you've got to know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a few examples of the things you have to have in place before that process can even start, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, let's think about the actual processes. That was what I was talking about with my son, how he unloaded the plates. So the way that you put the dishes in there, if you don't arrange them right, you're not going to get the outcome you want. Or if you don't rinse them properly first, you're not going to get the outcome. So, I mean, all of those things are part of the processes. And unloading really doesn't get you clean plates, but it's going to save you time in how you do it. So
Right.
Anyway, you see how all that works together?
Mm-hmm.
Get where you want to go with this one particular outcome measure. And some of these may not hit on this exact outcome measure. They may lead up to other things for your end goal. But So you got to have these basic building blocks in place to build your processes from to get the outcomes that you want. Does that make sense?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's simple. So now let's get rid of the dishwasher scenario and use the one where your points come from. Does that sound better? So the scenario in the assignment was the registration department in a hospital, right? And you've got a patient there
Right.
doing paperwork with the insurance information, insurance ID card, and they've sometimes come to pre-admit. They need an ID bracelet. It must have the name and the patient's name, doctor's name. And before anything else can be done, they have to get a consent form signed. And sometimes they have family members with them. And all of those things have to happen to have the complete registration process, right? So, what are some examples in this scenario that you have to have in place structure-wise before anything else can happen?
You need the insurance card if they have it. If they don't have the insurance card, you have to make sure you get the payment up front.
They actually
Correct.
have it. Let's think about the department for a second. What if you were this department manager? What are some things that you need to put into place in order to get that patient from registration to wherever they're going in surgery or being admitted or whatever it may be? Picture
Can
your
you say that?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you say that again? Can you say that again? It skipped.
Okay. Imagine you're the department manager. What are some things in that department that you must have in place in order to make the registration process complete? Picture the department. What would it look like?
I guess you have your stations.
Very
Your
good.
employees you got your registers
Yes,
at different stations.
You got your registration clerks. Your admitting
Mm-hmm.
personnel. So you have to figure out how many hours they work. All those are both structure measures. The
Mm-hmm.
number of people, the number of hours they work per week, overtime. So think of all those things, all the personnel issues and measures. Those are some examples. What are some other things? Other examples?
You have to make sure you have the proper software.
Right. Your computer. The actual. So downtime would be a structure measure when the computers are down.
Yeah.
Example. You have to have your supply, the actual armbands, the actual consent forms, and you mentioned the actual insurance cards.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have all those things in place before anything else can happen. Does that make sense? So there's some examples of structure measures. And then I think the assignment, you got this sheet with the boxes on it, which I don't know that you can get in there and edit it. And if you can't, you can print it off and fill this out, pen, pencil, whatever you want, take a picture and upload it as a photo for your assignment. Works fine. It doesn't have to be all pretty and everything.
Okay.
I just want to see that you understand the difference in these assignments. And I may actually go back in there for everybody and put it as a Word document so that you can edit it.
It is. You do have it for a Word document too.
Okay, great. So you can edit. You can type. Either way works fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're up to process measures, right?
Right.
Any idea on those?
Well, you have to get the person's information, the patient's information, like their name, their date of birth, all the information you need to send off to the insurance company.
Right. It's one way you can be sure you get all that.
Looking at their chart.
Right. You can have checklists.
Yeah.
How are you going to measure those things?
I don't know.
What about the denied insurance claims would tell you if the insurance information was entered correctly.
Say that again.
Denied insurance claims.
So how would you get the denied insurance claim? Is that already?
There should be reports for those things.
Oh, okay.
Getting creative within your facility and knowing who to ask for what, so that you can make sure that your department is contributing positively to the overall goals.
Okay. That's another thing would be, you got your denied insurance claims, got your checklist. That's it. That's about it.
What other processes? What else were you doing there? One thing was putting on the armbands. Remember the patient identification? That's hugely important. So the process of going through from the armband to the patient's wrist and verifying that all of the information is correct. So that's a process.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the measure for that?
You have to, don't you have to verify the information?
Right.
That's on the armband.
The nursing unit. And I guarantee if somebody in admissions did something wrong with that armband, you all are going to hear about it from the nursing staff. So that's one way to verify that. They'll probably chart it somewhere. And now with all of the technology, that can be tracked. So you've got your complaint phone calls from other departments. That's one way to measure it. Or chart reviews. Or someone in your department, I'm assuming, well, in the scenario, you are the admissions manager. So you could have someone in your department do a quality check on random patients when the armband's replaced. Another process was to get the consent form signed. And that would work much like the armband. So are the patients arriving in the department with the consent on their chart like it's supposed to be? And you would measure those pretty much the same way. So does that make process measures clear?
Yes.
All right, great. So then the big shebang, our outcome measures, the end all be all of why we do what we do during a day. Putting all of these things together to get to our outcome measure. So think back to this specific department. What is one of the most important things?
The most important thing is to get the patient registered correctly for their procedure.
Right. And if the patient is registered completely and accurately, they're going to be satisfied, right?
Mm-hmm.
So patient satisfaction will be a huge outcome measure.
Yes, great customer service.
Yes, very good. So you got to have all of these structure measures, all of your process measures in order to get to your outcome measures. So you've got to have these things in place to make your happy patients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your safe patients.
Right.
If their armband's wrong and they get the wrong arm amputated that day, not a good outcome measure, is it?
No.
So that's how important all of these things are that lead up to the outcomes. Another one is the time to complete this whole process. You don't want them sitting in your admitting chair for 3 hours.
Okay. Do it in a timely manner.
Right. Yes. And back to the insurance card, insurance approval and the entire insurance process there, getting the approval or lack of denial would actually be an outcome measure because you had to go through all of these things to get to that outcome. So there's some good examples, and feel free to use one of those, or if you want to think outside the box and come up with others that surround that scenario. There are no right or wrong answers as to which ones you can use, only putting them in the right or wrong category. So
Okay.
think about some of the examples we talked about, and if you have any trouble completing the boxes, let me know. I think we covered well how to identify and describe the measures. And not everything has a numerator or denominator, and your book does a pretty good job of explaining that. So some of those may be non-applicable in each scenario based on whichever one you decided to do. The data source, think about all the things we were measuring and where do you get these things to measure. Like, the insurance denials would come from, obviously, an insurance report.
Mm-hmm.
Consent forms will eventually wind up in the patient's chart, so you could do chart audits. So those are some examples of the sources, and then your textbook talks about how reliable those sources are, and hopefully you picked a reliable source as your data source to start with and can speak to the reliability of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All that makes sense?
Yes.
Wonderful. I see Crystal has joined us.
Yes, I was a little late. I was taking the quiz.
Oh, that's
I
okay.
didn't see what time it was.
It gets by, but I recorded this and I'm going to post the link and you can go back and listen to the whole thing. How's that sound?
Yeah, good.
Good. And then if you have any questions, feel free to contact either Chelsea or myself. It's nice to meet you, and Chelsea's on here. You can meet Chelsea. She is helping me throughout this course. So
Okay.
if any of you all have any questions, don't hesitate to contact either one of us, and we will be glad to help.